And there we go. We should be live on multiple different platforms.
All right.
I'm proud of you.
Are you proud of me?
Well,
I am
we're very
proud of
proud
you. You hit the button again.
Good job, buddy.
I'm
All right,
alive,
well, we ready to begin then?
kind of.
You grew up so fast.
Yeah, I guess we are ready to begin. 10 forward, you can take us away.
All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Boathouse Podcast, the premier one and only podcast for the lifeboat logistics community, focusing on all things Star Citizen and Squadron 42. I, of course, am joined by my amazing co-hosts, Icarus and Drex.
Hello.
And yeah, Icarus is here and Drex is not dead, so we can be happy there.
Allegedly.
For those of you playing along at home, we're close.
I suppose we'll do our standard introductions, at least while the podcast is still in its infancy, until things are a little more set in stone. But I am 10 Forward, our science division lead, currently focusing mostly on medical gameplay, as well as just general support to the community and org at large. And I will pass it on, I suppose, to Icarus, as he's the next one on the little Discord screen.
That works.
Sounds good.
Hello, I am Icarus. I am the combat division lead. Anything that goes kaboom, anything that needs killing, that is my job. Generally, we just do ground, air combat, and we are basically protection support for 10 Forward's little side group there, and all their medical needs. And in reality, they're the ones that keep us alive and from dying from our own explosions. But we're not going to go over that. I will pass it over to our half-dying almighty leader, Drex.
Yes. I am here. I am Drex. I am one of the directors of Lifeboat Logistics. As you guys can hear, I am actively suffering, but I am here for the stream because stream is love, stream is life. we have the stream up today, YouTube and Twitch. At least ideally it's working YouTube and Twitch, so catch us in either location.
Indeed.
All right, 10 forward, did you want to continue with letting this ball roll, or do you want me to take over?
Either one. Do you feel okay enough to commandeer and keep us rolling?
I'll do my best.
All right.
All right. So, sick Drex being sick, we're gonna jump right into the news. And actually, this week was a very big one. We started off the week with just the normal inside Star Citizen, or not inside, this week in Star Citizen. They just said things are happening this week. We're finally off of our media hiatus.
As we all roll their eyes going, here we go.
The year begins. That said, though, after rolling our eyes collectively and being like, oh, here we go, they actually kind of knocked this week out of the park. We had, in order, we'll go over them more later, but in order, we had the ISC this week that was very, very interesting. And then we had the SC Live that was also very, very interesting. And I guess technically out of order here, we've had some Evocati patches going live in the background, so clearly things are being worked on.
Yeah, and I did see in Evocati and everything, they are actually doing the replication layer, and it seems like initially it did kind of have some pretty big issues, a lot of things breaking, but the big thing is they actually got to work on a larger scale, and it actually reconnected people, so I think that's a good start.
I think it's nice to see that, I don't know if it was last week or the week before we talked about, or maybe it wasn't even on the podcast, maybe I'm thinking of a separate conversation and somehow I'm dragging it in here, but they've talked about a lot. We haven't really seen a lot so far this year. Well, here's the big dump that everyone was waiting on. Here's the stuff starting. Here's the dominoes beginning to fall.
Oh yeah.
And fall they will, it seems.
Yeah, they let us roll our eyes, and then they just kind of slapped us in the face and said, "Roll them again," and we're like, "Oh, never mind."
Do it again. I will also. I'm just gonna pull it up here. I'll pull up today's, or I guess this week's sneak peek from CIG, just so that we get some idea of where we're looking at. I don't know if you guys have seen this already, but it's obviously up on the stream and up in our news channel, so you guys can take a look. But what I think it looks like is ground outposts and whatnot are getting cargo elevators as well as hangars.
Yeah, I was gonna say because that just looks like one of the standard landing pads out of the the smaller moon outposts and stuff, the mining facilities. So that's exciting.
Yeah, and
that's
like
that's a whole ass. Like, I was gonna say that's a whole ass cargo area. And is that a mule I see?
That is a mule. I was gonna say that that little thing was sneaking in there.
So that'll finally have a use.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
man,
that
just
is. Go ahead.
I'll say I know I've seen a few people in chats and stuff saying, oh, this is just gonna add extra steps. I think this is an extra step that needed to be added to cargo.
Oh yeah.
Kind of falls in line with what we were talking about last week, I believe, about this. At the end of the day, this is a sim game. It's adding extra steps, but it's steps that are, part of the sim that you're doing, and it's more immersive.
Yeah.
It's no more just click button, cargo loaded, click button, cargo sold. It's you got to work now.
And the thing, cargo is like that almost across every sim game. While it can be the most profitable, man, is it mind numbing.
Yeah,
that's fair.
I think
I'm still looking forward to it though.
I think a really good segue here with this this cargo pod, I guess, on screen is that it seems like 323. Am I right with that number? 323.
You are.
It's getting proper cargo elevators for hangars. It's getting proper cargo elevators for, as we'd see, ground posts, and that's huge. Now, I have seen devs talk about the Hull C specifically, and it will not be changing. So if anybody was looking forward to like the Hull C having any specific changes, it sounds like the system that they're working on right now is still going to stay, but it will be adjusted, and their hope is to like strengthen the system up before dropping this patch.
Gotcha.
With these cargo areas and cargo elevators having a purpose now, in my mind, that means we're one step closer to personal persistent hangars.
They did actually mention that.
I believe instanced hangars are coming in our next patch as well, which is
they are.
It's just another one of those things that like we did not expect.
Yeah, no, that kind of came out of nowhere.
There was a lot of stuff we did not. We're just kind of like, hey, here's 323. Maybe a sprinkle of stuff, and we're like, okay, that'll be nice. No, they just dropped like buckets on our heads.
So we did just get a question in our Twitch chat that I think we'll get into a bit more later. I think with all of the changes that we've been seeing, the goal for players is going to shift quite a bit. It sounds like money is going to be a lot harder to make in easy aspects of the game, but like earning money in the places where you should really be earning money is going to become easier. So like, for example, a reclaimer might be easier to earn money on now than like running bunkers, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And to tag in with that, not to like jump way ahead on the list, but with the coming economy changes, stuff's also going to be more expensive. So it's going to put
exactly.
a bigger
Well, it
drive
also
to that.
also the flip side of that, there's a lot of stuff that's actually moving down the list that will become more affordable as well, which I was really glad to hear.
True, that is
Yeah.
true.
And it sounds like starter level ships are going to be significantly cheaper than the millions they cost now, whereas like the
Yep.
end game level ships are going to be significantly more expensive.
Oh yeah.
Which,
As
I
they
mean, that's
should.
how it should be.
Yeah, like hundreds of thousands for Pisces, but like upwards of 70 million is the estimate I've seen for like the 890.
Yeah. Which
Um,
that's kind of where it belongs.
Yeah, and it's just got to be prohibitively expensive, and all capital ships are going to have to be. Like, that's the goal. The capital ship isn't something you earn in a week.
I also think that eventually they're going to look into how that translates to purchase in-game versus, actual pledge. Because if you pledge a ship, let's just say the whole sea, which is what, 500 on the pledge store.
Yep.
Yeah,
But you can get it in game for just a couple mil. That's rough, buddy. So
yeah,
things like that will, like I said, need to be up there in price to justify that.
exactly.
Also, just to notice what we got going on in our chat here with Potato saying we could talk about this later. Everyone goes in on it. Yep. Welcome to the podcast.
Yep.
Glad you could join us.
This is kind of how it goes. But we will loop back. This is the beginning of our conversation.
Yeah.
I'm gonna loop us back to the top of our list, but first I'm just going to. I grabbed a couple like community questions that I saw on Spectrum that I thought would be nice to answer here. Just because people seem quite interested. So the first one that somebody asked on Spectrum and got a response on was to do with the Carrick cargo pods. You guys all remember, or I guess you guys that are here with me, hopefully remember the Carrick's cargo pods and how those work. Or if you don't, I can give a quick rundown.
Yeah, no, we've gone over them before, and I remember.
Okay, so for anybody at home that doesn't know what I'm talking about, the Anvil Carrick, premier exploration ship, its cargo pods. Let me just see if I can grab a picture here. The Anvil Carrick's cargo pods are supposed to drop out of the bottom of the ship when in use, so that like players can easily and quickly refill cargo and get access.
That's an 890 jump.
Yep. No, I'm currently pulling up the
okay.
image.
What are you talking about? That's the Carrick.
As clearly Anvil design.
There we go.
That's
I was just
clearly
pulling
a
up the
Drake
image.
ship.
This
that's
is an
older
old Carrick concept, but it shows kind of what I'm talking about. We don't have the game spooled up tonight, or else I would show exactly what's going on. But at the bottom of the ship, you can see the pods are supposed to drop out and be usable, we'll say. In the current design of the ship, there appear to be doors on the sides. They currently do not open, and CIG has confirmed that they will not be opening in 323. So, Carrick owners, you are going to have not so great a time because you're going to have to load smaller boxes through the hallway.
Let's get some F's in chat, folks.
Yeah, let's get some F's in chat for the Carrick.
And also F's for its in concept design looking infinitely better.
I mean, there's some design changes I would have made to that concept, but I don't know. It does feel a little better than the current in-game version.
All right. And for our second and I guess probably final question of today that I saw answered, with new ships in master modes losing the gimbal +1 system, what happens to the Vanguard? Because as we know, its nose guns are all fixed. So like, do they somehow get a gimbal, or do the chin guns get a weird gimbal? The Vanguard will be following what most other ships are following. The four nose guns are going to remain fixed. The chin-mounted laser cannon will become a size 5 standard, and it will be permanently size 5. You will no longer be able to size 4 it.
Yep.
And it will have a gimbal on it. So look at that size 4 cannon and think about a bigger one.
Honestly, across the board, I see it as an upgrade. I think that's probably one of the best things that they're going to update with ships here. I'm incredibly excited about it.
Losing the gimbal -1 or gimbal +1 or however they're describing its system, it's like it's going to make balance very difficult and very weird. But I think overall it's going to be much more valuable.
What I'm interested in with that gimbal plus or minus whatever is now that will mean that you can throw 4 gimbaled 85Bs on a Corsair.
Yeah, that's going to be yeah.
Actually might buy my Corsair back.
It's fun, but it's not nearly a maneuverable enough ship to deal with those fixed Gatlings. But if they're gimbaled,
man, that's about to be a wild ship. All those guns and then the wing guns now are just gimbaled and a size up.
Yeah, that's just wild. There are ways that they're gonna plan to like gimp the gimbals just a little bit, which because otherwise that would get really, really, really bad.
Oh yeah.
I've got another question in chat if we want to answer that.
We do have another question in chat. I think let's go into master modes a little bit. We're kind of jumping the gun. We're gonna bring it back up in our we'll call it our list. Yeah, we'll call it the list. We will bring it back up in the list, but might as well go over it now. Do you guys have anything you want to say specifically on master modes before I jump in, or do you want me to start?
I guess I would just say, because the question being, how do you think it'll be implemented? It seems like the majority of master modes is going to be focused on your lighter ships, your smaller things. That's where it's actually going to be actually noticeable. Like on your fighters, obviously. I know the Gladius was the test bed for this for since it first came onto the scene. You're going to notice it there, but I think the bigger ships, there's not really going to be much of a difference. You'll still have the different modes, I think, but it's not going to change the way you fly and use those ships.
Yeah. The little bit I've gotten to play in master modes, I feel like it's too early to tell overall how it's going to affect things because we only have really, medium and light fighter class ships. But even the speed alone, I feel like, the master race light fighters, our king era is going to go away here very quickly.
So as Potato has specified, do you think they're just adding it to the PU or add ships to AC? Based on everything that we can gather, it looks like Master Modes is going to roll straight into the PU. I think with their archetype testing that they've done, they are in a position that they could. It might be a little preemptive, but yeah, I at least would put a vote strongly towards it's going into the PU for all ships. and we're just gonna have to see what that does.
I can agree. I think they're, like you said, maybe a little preemptive. They might jump the gun a little bit with it, but I think they're just as excited to get this stuff out as we are to get it.
Yep.
Yeah, Yogi has been active in Spectrum as well. He's been active talking about ships with weapons. He's been active in talking about like some of the things that they're working on, namely that weapons are being balanced entirely across the board. Things that we have now are not going to be what we have, and they're not going to stay the way they are. For example, size 5 weapons. The Vanguard is losing the ability to go down to a size 4. Their goal, though, is that you will have size 5 and 6 weapons that bridge fighter versus fighter and fighter versus capital. Because anything smaller than a size 5 should only be used against lighter ships unless mounted to a turret, and anything that is bigger than size 6 should not be used against light ships, and will like almost always be mounted to a turret.
Unless you're in an Ion or an Inferno, because then that's just fun.
Yeah,
Yep.
you're still
It's just
intended to fight a capital ship, but yeah, it's just fun.
And man, like it's just kind of mind-boggling of how big those changes are actually going to be. Like talking about them, it's like, yeah, like these are going to be changes, but we've been so used to these weapons and downgrading sizes, moving things around for so long that just, hey, this is what it is now, and we're fixing their function across the board is going to feel weird.
Yeah, and the hardpoint gimbal -1 system has always been, well, really, it's always been at the forefront of every combat player's mind. You always have made the decision, like, do I take gimbals or take a higher size weapon?
Yeah,
That was one of the first things I learned when I was outfitting my ships. When I first met a lot of the folks here, is your guns. If you want to run gimbal, you got to go a size down. And like you said, there was that planning aspect. Like, for instance, the arrow, it's fast and nimble. You can throw fixed on there and be just fine. Other stuff, not so much.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think this system allows them to be, well, and it's not going to be shocking to anybody. It allows them to be very, very good about balancing ships and balancing weapons that ships have equipped to them. For example, like a set of size 3s is going to be the same on the Saber and on the Scorpius. So those will all math together, and the ships are going to be closer in combat regardless than they are now.
I think you'll still have your quote-unquote meta fighters, but it won't be the large gap that we have now.
No.
Yeah, well, I also think it's going to come down to much more ship preference and how it handles and how it feels to the pilot, which I like that better.
Yeah. Your ship is going to be very important, and to combat the amount of times I've seen Vanguard bad in our chat, I would honestly disagree. This set of changes, I think, for the Vanguard is like, I'm a Vanguard fanboy. I will die on that hill. I think they're positive for the ship more than they are negative. I think a Vanguard being, well, it basically gatekeeps the ability for a fighter to rock anti-capital size weaponry. And like, yes, the Ares can do it, but the Vanguard just has so much more diversity in its mission package.
Yep.
I think an unattended side effect of these changes will be the fact that it's going to skew the learning curve a bit, where your average person can learn to get comfortable in a fighter and effectively use it, but if you want to be a top tier ace, that's still going to be some work. It's still going to come down to the pilot and their skill, but your average Joe can still be effective.
Well, and so
Yeah.
many ships are going to be so much more. I'll use the word diverse, um, just with all these gimbal changes and whatnot. So let's use an example of. Let's use the example of the Vanguard because I was already on it. Right now, you select your weapon that you use, and if you want to fight a big ship, you equip for a big ship. If you want to fight a small ship, you equip for a small ship. This new system allows you to equip somewhere in the middle so that you could fight both reasonably, but not forcing you into one or the other pigeonhole like you have right now.
Yeah, exactly.
I think
I, I,
that's good.
I I've done a little bit of PvP. I'm not gonna be like, oh, I'm a PvP master by any means, but I very much do dislike the fact that and we'll stay on the Vanguard for example. You throw someone in a lighter fighter with their speed, you're done. If they have any form of competence flying, you're in trouble. There is no beating it. This is going to completely change that. Where, guess what? If someone is actually really good in a fighter, you're going to know, hey, I got out, I just got outmatched. Right now, it doesn't feel like you get outmatched sometimes. It's just, they can flop around faster and they could zoom away before you could even get your nose on them.
Yeah. I think.
Unless you're like. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just say I think with the arrow as an example, those things are so bloody hard to hit. But I think a player that uses gimbal and non-gimbal fire correctly will stand a much better chance now. It also adds that one more layer of depth. You can have things like set to toggle, and that will be. I think that will be very interesting. Toggling mid-fight.
Yep.
I was gonna bring up that time that you and I sparred Drex, and you were in the Vanguard Warden, right? Was it the
It might have
Warden
been the
or-
Sentinel, but it was a Vanguard of some
No,
description.
it was a Sentinel because you kept EMPing my arrow. So while I was much quicker than you, and you couldn't get a shot on me, you would shut down the arrow, and then you had all the time in the world to do what you needed.
Yeah, wouldn't matter.
So it's going to be interesting to see if these weapon changes make any difference in those scenarios, or is it just kind of the same? I guess same bag of tricks with like the EMP and things.
I think the lack of tricording is going to be what changes that huge, or like in a huge way, because we're losing that angular velocity that all these ships have. If you guys haven't, and this is for anybody watching. If you haven't tried master modes, I highly recommend it. Ships fly very differently, but tricording is basically gone. Being able to push all thrusters on one side of your ship into getting you some weird super speed in like a diagonal direction, that's gone. So fights are going to need to be a lot more deliberate.
Yeah.
They fly different, but they're not hard to learn. In fact, at least with the bit that I've played in master modes, it was easier to pick up because ships now move a lot more, like you said, forward and backward. It's a lot more like modern day aircraft. A lot of the mechanics are you need to fly that direction. You can turn and move where you need to turn, but the strafing is what's getting not booted out. It still exists, but not the way it has been.
Well, and I'd say a bit of flown with them. It feels better in the sense of the ship is doing exactly what you want it to. It's going in the direction you need it to. You don't have this weird, obscure, like, this is actually the best way to fight in an engagement. If you don't know it because you're new, you lose.
Yeah. Because if anybody's fought at like the recent jump towns or anything like that, you will get out and start fighting somebody, and they're gonna punch their ship in often a diagonal right and a diagonal left, because when they punch into that diagonal, your targeting computer just loses track of what's going on because they're moving at like top speeds at an angle that like the game just doesn't understand.
Yes, it's technically a speed and everything that doesn't actually exist.
Yeah, like I don't know. If you look at the Super Hornet as an example, you're not spinning that ship in an atmosphere at 500 meters a second sideways. Like you would just fall out of the sky.
Yeah, because of the way that your retro thrusters, your actual movement thrusters, they just don't work like that because they're subject to gravity and the atmosphere. So right now it's kind of unrealistic.
Yeah, it's extremely unrealistic right now, which obviously is why CIG is changing to Master Mode's Flight, which is I'm not gonna say it's like worlds better, but like I think it's gonna be significant.
It's going to change over time here, but it's definitely I think it's an iteration in the right direction.
Exactly. All right, so I know, like personally, I can spend the rest of this episode talking on my feelings about master modes. Um, if we have time at the end and people in our chat want us to, we can come back to master modes as like a topic and talk a little bit more. But for now, I think best practices is probably just to start going through our list.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
there's a lot of good stuff here that I really think we need to touch on.
Yeah, like master mode conversation, awesome. Still want to have it, but we have so much this week to talk about.
Like that's good, but man, there's a lot of good stuff here.
Yeah, the fact that Master Modes is one line on an entire list of things we've got here.
Exactly. All right, so
Swerve says talk about the star map. We'll get there. It's on the
I
list.
say it is like what is it? It's like 8th thing down the list.
Somewhere in there.
We're not gonna spend obviously like a whole lot of time on each of these things, but we'll dive through. I think I'll start us off here just so that we get rolling. Our first thing that we got this week from ISC was the new EVA system, or just them explaining what the new EVA system was and how it worked. Essentially, right now, when you fly through space as a person, you fly standing up, which is super. It's jarring.
Horrible.
It's horrible. No, like let's be real, it's horrible.
It is the worst feeling in the world.
And you bounce off things, like you just have you have so many bad things going on. But as we have in our chat, that Potato said, the Superman position is what we're getting now.
Yep.
So for anybody watching, you can imagine Superman. He's arms out in front of him, and he flies with his stomach pointed towards the ground. In EVA, I guess 2, we'll call it, or I'll refer to it as, you do fly like that. You stick your arms out in front of you, and you float towards whatever you're going for, allowing you to float through ladders or float through doorways without just bonking your head or your arm or your leg or whatever.
Which, I mean, if anyone who's seen like video of astronauts on the ISS, that's how they get around. That's how they move in 0G, is in that sort of fashion, not T-posing around the station.
Yeah, you're not standing upright, smacking your head on everything, and then, lowering yourself down just so you could smack your knee, and now you're spinning around, and you have no idea where you are.
It's a glorified crawl, essentially. You're just crawling through zero gravity, and as humans, the crawl makes the most sense because it allows you to get your hands out in front, and we will have new grabbing and push and pull soon. But it will allow your character to actually interact with things around them, or if you fly into a wall, you don't just bounce off of it. You like your character will grab onto it eventually. That's not in this next patch, but like that's what your character
That's the
should
goal.
do.
So I feel like something else that's really nice about it is, currently, we'll say current EVA, you look around, your entire body is moving around with you. So, say you look to your left, your entire body is shifting left. You might hit something with your shoulder, your foot, and then guess what? We've all done it. Suddenly you're spinning out of control. With EVA 2, when you look around, you're moving your head. That is it.
Or pivoting your body as opposed to rotating your body.
Yep.
Just to address what Harvick said in our Twitch chat, he says, not going to lie, all the IRL EVA I've seen is more like the current EVA because suits are bulky. True, because modern EVA suits are giant body bags with a jetpack attached to them, basically. But if you notice, like, the astronauts within the actual station itself, who are just in their standard clothes, they move in that fashion, and I would assume with our futuristic tech, the standard undersuit helmet combo is much closer to your like streetwear clothes. So you wouldn't necessarily have that giant bulky suit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems very much like we have traded the 21st century spacesuit that is just a bulky mess for what is more of a scuba diving suit, which definitely like it aligns better with the idea of swimming through space. Like I know that sounds kind of weird, but that's essentially what we're going to be doing.
Yeah.
All right, so to move on from that, because that was really cool, and I'm hoping that we get to like show it off sooner rather than later in game with like one of our in-game episodes. But our next thing, and I'll let somebody else take it because I am bad with acronyms, is the PIE PIS system.
All right, Idris, what you got? Idris, God. All right, Idris, what you got?
So, oh man, okay. System, yes. The pie piss, the piss pie. That there's so many acronyms for them that they use, and it's I don't even know where to begin with it. I'm trying to think of what it actually ends up breaking out down into, because it's really the interaction system, I guess, is the best way to put it. And as of currently, saying it's a sloppy mess is being generous, I feel like. We've all had gear and bunkers drop. We've all had stuff we're trying to loot off of bodies, off of lockers. And man, it's a nightmare. It's actually just you're grabbing the wrong things, you're highlighting the wrong things, the focus view is not anywhere near what you're looking at. With their new system here, they're really, really centralizing the idea of not necessarily a cursor, but where you're looking, the, object further, like how far it is from you, relevance. I think they actually said relevance of the situation as well. It's going to be far easier. It's going to be far easier to grab objects, interact with them, and man, my favorite thing with this is being able to preset them to do what you want.
Just to cut you off there, we did get the acronym breakdown in chat. It is Player Interaction Experience, Player Interaction System.
Okay.
Which makes sense.
Yeah. But everyone enjoys the acronym so much.
Yeah, exactly. I think where we go from there is straight to the next item on our list, which is just the default item actions, which is part of this whole system. You were starting to get into it there, Icarus, and obviously I stopped you so that we made sure we were segmented
All
on this
good.
list as best
All
we
good.
could. Um, but default item interactions, yeah, that's going to be crazy because it allows you to look at an item and contextually it should operate the way you would want it to operate. Like, for example, um, a gun on a rack. You can just look at the gun and it'll say, press whatever to pick up the gun. And you will pick up the gun. You don't have to scroll through this list of, whatever junk to find that thing. There is one interaction for that holster, one interaction for that gun. If you need more, you open a menu, a radial menu, and use that. Or
And,
the thing that they've predicted just works for you.
and that is, I feel like, a really important thing on that as well, is that dreaded list that we have is gone. It's going
Yeah.
away. They are giving us, and at first I was like, oh, they're still keeping it. No, no, no. The radial menu they are giving us is so much nicer. It's more organized, it's condensed, and it actually gives you, I'll say it groups things together in a way that makes sense, so you're not, hey, I'm trying to grab this item off of, someone in a bunker. You don't have to sit there and like dig through like, oh crap, I need to click this, and then guess what? You end up clicking the wrong thing half the time.
I think one of the nicest parts about that is it's not that hold F and then move your cursor to what you want to click, but oh man, it's not letting you click it. You accidentally click the wrong thing, and now instead of picking up the gun on the ground, you grab the helmet off the body you're looting.
Or you just
Yeah.
ripped the pants off of whatever character you were trying to get a med pen from.
Right.
Yeah.
It helps
'Cause
avoid that, which is nice.
I can't explain how many times I've walked over to a body needing a med pen and I'm just like, oh, okay, I'll just take your pants. It's fine. I'm just walking away with them. Like, okay. Like I'm still gonna die, but at least I have this man's equipment.
You've got pants.
Like I've taken his leg armor. Great.
You can die with clean pants, and it'll be fine.
Exactly.
Again, the big thing with this is the game is very interactive. So it's not like you just like boom, you suddenly have it in your hands. Nope. You walk over, you crouch down, you grab the item, pick it up, and now you have the box in your hands. All while you're like, man, I just really need this med pen in the middle of a firefight.
Yeah, like I'm dying. I just need the pen. Like just give me the medication.
It's.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, at the end of the day, it's just streamlining a system that can be streamlined in the sim.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Okay, so to keep us going because we still have so much to go through. I'm gonna dive over the next three things like super quick. We don't really need to have a huge conversation over them. But our next three things on our list are reloading. That also comes with the new item animations and item interactions. That should also be backpack reloading, which is huge.
Oh yeah.
We have the new crosshairs. Different types of helmet will have different types of crosshairs. So if you're not wearing a combat helmet, you likely won't see combat like heads-up display elements. It makes sense. Like it's not a crazy thought. The helmet will do what you would expect the helmet to do for whatever it was built for. And the third thing in this quick list is scopes. I don't know if any of our viewers remember the scopes they showed off at CitizenCon, but essentially going from very simple rendered red dots to what is very similar to what like a game like Arma would use right now, where you have a much more picture-in-picture view, but it doesn't feel picture-in-picture.
They're a lot clearer now, which I'm very grateful for that from the FPS side of the game. Is the new scopes and sights look infinitely better than what we got.
It's just an improvement across the board. Like really, quite simply, it's just an improvement to aiming down sights on your weapons and how immersive that will feel.
I guess if you want to break it down even further, like pretty much everything else on this list, it's easier to use, more realistic, and more immersive.
And that
Yep.
fits those last three items: the reloading, the crosshair, and the scopes. It's all more immersive, all better for the player. Our next
Less hassle.
thing on the
Yeah.
list is distribution centers. We actually didn't expect these to be coming in such a
Nope.
near time frame, and
Nope,
we
it's
haven't
a
seen
surprise.
anything. So, like, I don't know how much of them we're gonna get. We may just get exteriors plus like lobbies. But for anybody who doesn't
So
remember them, they are these giant like buildings that we as players should be able to explore and complete missions in.
So actually, to add that little bit of thing, they're not just going to be buildings and lobbies we could go in. They said they're going to actually be big enough where missions are going to take place in these distribution centers.
Okay.
They're actually going to be their own areas where you may be able to go get missions, but missions can still happen in the centers. They're big enough where like full stage missions will be there.
Oh, so they yeah. So I'm running on sick boy hours, so like I didn't actually see the whole video. I'm working on the recap, but if they've said that the distribution centers um will be like ready to go and in their full like implementation, I guess would be the word. That's crazy.
And
I would love to see. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
No, I don't know if it's full implementation, but it it sounds like they're going to be pretty damn functional, if not near full.
Okay. Yeah, which is incredible. I just pulled up a picture from one of them, and it's not even showing the tower. It's just showing the depot, and it's crazy.
What I would love
Yeah.
to see with these, in terms of like the missions to complete there, and I'm sure this will eventually make it in, but I would love to see like mini Siege of Orison, where like a group of Nine Tails has locked down this distribution center. You got to go in as a strike team and clear them out, kind of thing.
Oh yeah, exactly. I think that
Actually,
would be a lot of fun.
according to them, that actually might end up being a thing. So
Yeah, Harvick says distro centers won't be complete in the first release. There's going to be a lot of content for them coming down the pipeline. Which, yeah, I understand. They're implementing entire new, I mean, realistically, entire new areas in the game. So I can see a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline for it.
And these distro centers, they are like nearly as complicated as like well, they're more complicated than the space stations we have, but they're nearly as complicated as settlements. Like from what we've seen, a distribution center could be the size of what we could traverse in Lorville right now.
which
Yeah, so
it's so cool.
I'm excited that for a lot of the planets, it's not just, hey, we have this one city. That's it. Now you have, okay, sure, here's the capital city, but you've got these distribution centers that, dot the landscape as you go. So it's not like the capital is the only population zone.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that this being the new thing that is like not bunkers is so nice that like
Yeah.
missions aren't just bunkers anymore.
Let's go.
All right. Oh,
Okay,
Icarus, did
go
you have
ahead.
something to say? Because I was going to just push
No.
us onwards.
No, go ahead. I was over here ranting.
Okay. Our next thing on our list is master modes. We already had a conversation about that, just super quick, and then we've said already that we'll come back and talk about it after the fact if we have time. We may push the show out if we're all feeling it, but we'll have to see. Precision targeting mode. That's also part of master modes. I think that can probably be gone into a little bit more later as we go through
So
that.
that one's pretty self-explanatory at the moment, but it kind of
Yeah,
breaks down into other things that are coming with master modes.
essentially, your camera can zoom and you can target certain things on the ship, as opposed to what you currently do now, and you just fumble around and see if you can target like a turret or something.
So
Yeah.
Harvick, I think Harvick put it best. Precision targeting mode is basically aim down sights for space combat.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a spaceship ADS. No, that is the perfect way to say it. Gimbal changes. That's another thing on our list.
I know we talked about that a good bit earlier.
We talked about
Yeah.
that a huge amount with like master modes earlier. Again, just going through it super quickly. The gimbals are changing significantly. Keep an eye out because we don't exactly know what the hell's going on either. Um, Visor and lens. I'm not actually sure what this one refers to exactly. I believe it's to the
I
new HUD, but that's just
I
me.
I believe it's the new HUD and everything, and being able to basically do the ping we have on ships around the area and actually scan and just more information on the HUD in general.
Yeah, and more information better laid out. Because the current HUD gets a little scrambled, and I think with all the new stuff that they're intending on adding, like having the new HUD and the new visor stuff, if we just added the new stuff on top of what we currently had, I think you would blind players. I think you'd have a Ready Player One type situation. How much can
Yeah.
we like shove on the screen without your character just like, or not without your character, without your player just like falling over?
Yeah.
So
Massive sensory overload.
I love that we have our very own Jamie in the chat with Harbeck here, saying that it is going to have dynamic targeting reticule, minimap, combat stack, status stack, notification bar. So a lot of stuff going into the new HUD.
Yeah, so it's the new HUD framework when they say, or when the list we're reading off of says visor and lens. Um,
Yeah.
in there is minimap. I'm kind of shocked that we're getting minimap right now. Um,
Yeah,
like
I wasn't expecting it.
like minimap is huge, and it's an
Now,
extension of new star map, which I think is the
there
thing we should
is
talk about.
Oh,
there
yeah.
was something mentioned about the mini map that I do feel is incredibly important.
Okay.
So the mini map is going to be set up for areas that you would go to for missions or, spaceports and cities. Being out in a random spot in, the planet will not give you a mini map.
Which that makes
Which,
sense.
Yeah.
yeah.
Now they did say they were looking at implementing stuff in the future and slowly adding, maybe doing something like that over time where, because we're gonna have the data retrieval and all that in the future. But it doesn't sound like they're gonna be like, hey, here's a mini map for everything in the game, because they would have to go across every square inch of the planet.
Yeah, like you won't get like a topography map if you're just standing out in the middle of a ravine. But maybe in the future we're gonna get more information about the
Yeah.
ravine you're standing in. I think it would be likely that we see, um, depending on the minimap, that we see a 3D representation of where we're standing, but I don't expect it to be as detailed as obviously what they showed off for ships and other things like that.
100%.
So once again, Harbeck says future updates include role-specific HUD elements. I could see the minimap coming into play with that when you have things such for instance, let's kind of look at my side of things, like exploration. When things like that become a little more prominent, that's where you can get that like topographic mini map to show the area you're in, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, and maybe a topographic minimap will require, like I'm spitballing here, but like you're gonna have to wear a backpack that has a scanning array on it, because you're not tapping into information that exists in space. Like your suit isn't calibrated to know what a, I don't know. For example, it may know what the bathroom of Lorville looks like because somebody went in and, you know, stereoscopically mapped that room. You're not going to know what a random rock in the middle of nowhere is going to look like unless you have the equipment likely to scan that area.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you're not gonna jump. You're not gonna jump into a random cave on Daymar and have a full laid out map of it.
Like you will likely need to scan it yourself with a vehicle or with your own hand tools. And then like that's the kind of data you could sell to another player.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
So that whole thing that we were talking about encompassing the mini map, that's also the star map based on what we've seen. So
Yep.
having a new star map app that goes from just like, here's your planets, good luck, to being
Yeah.
able to like zoom out, zoom in, get information on the planets you're looking at.
The actual bases being selectable when
The
people
actual
are at them.
bases, a search, having a search is going to be just like. And Harabic again in the chat, the landing UI being worked on right now using the star map, like it's another thing. Like just being able to use this overarching map system for all of these granular little systems is hugely valuable.
It is going to be while it's technically such a miniature change of like, hey, we're updating the star map, it is one of the biggest changes they're going to make that is going to make everybody's life infinitely easier.
Exactly. And like
Yeah.
it simplifies the life of a Star Citizen player so much because the first thing a player does when they get into the game and get in their ship is, okay, where do I want to go? They'll look at the star map and like depending on what spot you spawned. I know Lorville's a little bit of a black hole on the map right now. You may not even see where you are.
Yeah.
Like you may not even be able to know where you are.
Oh, and you wanna zoom in on a planet to look at individual locations? It disappears.
Yeah. Is your party member at a bunker that you want to go to? Well, that's too bad. You're not going there because like God forbid you select your partner on the map, you're going to blow up because you're going to quantum travel straight to the sun.
Man.
So like when we say it's one of the biggest things, it really is one of the biggest things.
And just to real quick, little excitement because of what Harbeck said in the chat, landing UI, game changer.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I have taken to auto landing because fun fact, if you start an auto land, you can have your ship start to refuel, repair, and restock before the landing gear even touch. So well, like the system currently isn't there to be helpful to players landing. I've just decided, screw it, let the ship do the work for me, and then by the time I'm out of my seat, everything's already working. And I don't have to be dealing with it at all. The ship's doing its own thing while I'm in a menu.
Yeah.
But like, if the system becomes less frustrating, I would definitely take to landing the ship manually more often because that's fun. It's more fun to land manually. It's just not the easiest.
Yeah.
I very much. Go ahead, Chris.
Also, it's just pretty messy right now, especially trying to land anywhere that's not an actual landing pad.
Yeah, exactly.
I love coming in at full speed, slamming into a hangar. It's fun and it's enjoyable, but I hate vertical hangars.
Yep,
because
with a passion.
You have to be. I mean, you can do it in first person, like it's 100% doable. But somehow I always smack the nose of my ship or I hit a wing because I'm not fully seeing everything. And of course, yeah, you can go in third person. But I mean, even still, trying to do it in third person, unless you're looking straight down, you have that issue. But if you're looking at it from the side, you're gonna smack something. So, yeah.
All right, so we are running up on our time here, so I'm going to try and hurry us along. We've got, again, like we have so much that we could talk about this week. Like we're gonna run out of things. So rapid fire the rest of the list, unless there's something like huge we want to stop. But yeah, rapid fire. So we have a new star map, which we just talked about. New shopping app, which, based on everything we can tell, is allowing us to see the prices and locations of commodities well in game. I think it's super needed. I assume you guys agree.
Yeah, no,
Yes,
it's a needed feature.
Especially with the fact that cargo isn't standardized across the system anymore.
No. And then with that, there's a possibility that we get the new Mobi-Glass. At least we will likely get an upgraded Mobi-Glass because the mini-map, the star map, and the shopping app are all huge parts of that.
Exciting.
Character creator, that character creator Mark II that CIG was talking about at CitizenCon, we likely will see that, which means
No longer bland looking Joe that everybody picks.
I would say, assumingly, you would have more customization, which is always great, and then this
Beards.
is theoretically this system that allows us to save our characters as well as beards. But saving our characters is the big bonus there. If you create a character that you think is like the best, you don't have to just drop it every time the game patches.
Thank God.
Freight elevators we kind of went over before. Those are huge. It's going to be the entire new way you interact with your inventory. I don't think they're going to do away with the current like press I to get inventory, but we'll probably see that start to phase out because of these freight elevators that can move cargo, ships, vehicles, all that.
Everything
kind of
under the
stuff.
sun.
Yeah, which does mean that spawning vehicles at stations will now be possible. That's
Very happy.
That's a caveat slash extension of that. Instance hangers, another awesome little piece because yeah, we're going to be able to just get our personal hangers that one step closer. Whether this means personal hangers or just hangers are being instanced, you're likely going to be able to spend however much time you need in the hangar without getting booted out as you would right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, no more your ship is being impounded.
Yeah, your ship's being impounded. Bye-bye. Blockade runner missions, those are also another thing that's coming. We don't know a huge amount, I don't think, but the name is pretty self-explanatory. Blockade runner mission. So you're probably running blockades as a mission.
Will the Drake Herald finally have a use?
Stay tuned.
But new missions always good.
Always fun. There's going to be a Xenothreat update. I have heard in other places that the Xenothreat update is expected to be like quite sweeping. I think they want us to do more boarding for Xenothreat and have it be less like collect the cargo, shoot the guy, collect the cargo, shoot the guy.
But they did have a little talk this Friday on it. They said they're not going to give details, but we're going to see it before 3.23, and everyone in that room said it's exciting. It's a lot better.
I have predictions that we are going to be boarding the Idrises at the end.
That will be fun.
I think we're cracking the egg open as opposed to just blowing them up.
Yeah.
What I want to see is the UEE Warhammer really, giving it to them out there.
Yeah. Let the boys in the Navy go nuts.
I want to see that javelin in action.
And then looking at our list, we have two more things left. We have the looting UI, which, oh my goodness, if we have the looting UI, where you just go over to a player, it'll bring up a menu, and you take the valuables from their menu. That is going to be incredible.
It's going to be so much easier to manage magazines and ammo and picking up things off of like NPCs and players. It's
Well, and based on what it looks like, it is able to, like, right off the jump, it prioritizes the things that you need out of your enemies. Like, I'm not sifting through like 27 chorus guava fruit or whatever just to find whatever medical pen this man had on him.
exactly.
Or like if you like, God forbid you kill somebody who's been out mining and you look at their inventory and it's like all
Rock.
Dolvine. You're just like, oh my goodness, I just need to see what ammo or like what pens they've got on them. Which this should help us. Like, it should help us out to do a lot. And then our last item on the list is economy and price changes. Generally, ships are going to cost more. That makes sense. Ships are going to cost more, but it also sounds like, as I said earlier, the ways to earn money are going to go up as well. So, like, yes, things are going to cost more, but they also are going to be easier to afford.
Yeah, the economy as a whole is, based on what they said, it's taking a very drastic change. I know everyone's scared of, all these ships are going up in price. They are taking a very, very big look at how we make money and how much we earn, and I think people are going to be happy. It sounds like the right direction.
I think overall it's gonna be positive for us and positive for the game as a whole. It'll make things that you earn worth more, like, to you as a player, but also, like, it's gonna give you more stuff to do, because right now you go out, you do some ERT bounties, collect some cargo, you buy an 890 and you're done.
Yeah,
Like, that's
Not
your
for
life.
long.
And that's not what they want to be happening. They want, like, the things you buy to mean something.
it definitely seems like they will.
Ideally. Like, let's hope.
We can dream.
We can indeed dream. And with that, that is the end of our list. I am going to quickly just read through it again, and I'm going to remind people that these are the things that are currently slated for 3.23. We're not pie in the sky here. We're not like, we're not just regurgitating CitizenCon. This list I'm about to go through is all things that, like, players, at least the Evocati, are going to see in their hands theoretically within the next month. And it could be public players seeing it within the next month, which is just, like, mind-boggling. But I'll go through the list, we'll wrap up, and we'll make a good bow on the end of the show. So the list goes: new EVA system, the PyPIS system, the default items or item actions, the new reloading, the new crosshair, the new scopes, the new distribution centers, the master mode's flight changes, the precision targeting mode flight changes, the gimbal changes, the new visor and lens system, so the new HUD, the new minimap, the new star map, the new shopping app, and possibly, we're not sure, but we think new mobiGlas as a result of those, the new character creator V2, freight elevators, instanced hangars, blockade running missions, the large Xeno threat update, the looting AI, and finally, the economy and price changes where ships are generally costing more, but missions should react to that price change in an easy sense.
So yes, there was a lot of things on that list.
That list was like, it was like 20 items long.
And keep in mind that this is what we heard a lot about at CitizenCon. This is coming in 3.23, according to them. Like, this stuff is on track, almost ready to go.
According to CIG, and we're not just like, we're not just doing our whole like leak feed or whatever. These are all things that CIG has said live on a show, and that is 22 items. And that is 22 significant items of note.
And they
with
said there's
coming.
more that we have no idea about.
Yeah.
Well, just to put it into perspective, this is a drop in the bucket of what we saw at SitCon. And they said all that stuff is, their goal is to have all that to us within the year. So there's a lot still on the way.
If I had to put a number to it, this is a third of CitizenCon. Which, like, for anybody following along, CitizenCon promised what was essentially a new game. And if they're doing this much in the 3 patches we have before next CitizenCon, in each patch,
that's it.
We're gonna end the year with Pyro. Like, it's gonna happen.
Yep.
That's what I'm looking forward to. If nothing else, I want to see Pyro at least in Evocati at the end of the year, so that people are having a chance to actually,
I think we're going to see it sooner. Admittedly, I'm confident we're seeing Pyro sooner than the end of the year.
They're moving along much quicker than they thought. Like, all this stuff has come together much nicer than anticipated.
Yeah, and like,
I was gonna say that's a quote from CIG themselves. This stuff is moving along faster than they thought it was. So,
and it's clear, and like, we do a Star Citizen show, so like, we can't call ourselves haters, but like, I feel like this really quiets haters if this patch does what it's supposed to do, if it does what they're claiming it's going to do. Because, like, let's be real, CIG has had some tough time, and they have been working on Squadron 42 as the side of this, like, as the side of Star Citizen, that nobody has seen and they've kept completely under wraps. But if this is the speed that they can work at, and, like, I don't want to say aggression, but the level of push on everything that they're doing now that they're back from Squadron, I think Squadron 42 are going to be just like, it's going to be ridiculous. Squadron is going to be huge, and the PU, the Persistent Universe, is going to be, it's a game that nobody's ready for. I just don't think anybody
I think I think it's become more unique than it already is in really good ways.
Yeah, in ways that nobody can fathom.
It is still to this day my favorite scam.
Yeah.
It's been a long time in the works, and it still has a long way to go. But man, it's looking like it's on track to get there.
Guys, when a lot of people,
yeah. When a lot of people have, I mean, there's even a subreddit dedicated to it. A lot of people who say that this game just will not happen. That this just won't happen. It's a scam. We're getting there.
If this patch happens, we are like, it's crazy to me to think that this is more this is like more than a year's worth of stuff in one patch. Like, we've had previous years where it is less stuff than the first patch of this year.
Well, and something it brushes over this as well, because, all the haters, it's never coming out. It's going to be wild when Star Citizen is officially, like, 1.0 launch.
Oh, once it gets, like, there.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, we can actually see it after the Squadron 42 stuff. Like, hey, it's here. It's not an idea anymore. It's not something we haven't seen, or, it's just sitting in the background. They put it up on display and said, hey, guys, here it is.
It's there. Enjoy.
I'm very excited for the future of being able to introduce my friends to it without them needing a NASA computer and to prepare for every bug in the book. And I
Yeah,
think that's going to be a big change in the community. Is now so many people will have access to it. Once it gets to that point, it's so much easier to play, easier to learn. I think we're going to see a massive surge in player count.
It'll be infinitely more accessible, and I think that's the biggest thing, is that it needs to be accessible.
it does.
Just to wrap up my thoughts, I actually agree with what Harbeck is saying here in the chat. He says, I don't care about Pyro if they spend 2024 making Star Citizen and Squadron 42 match each other in gameplay and UI designs, as well as give us all the Squadron 42 stuff, then give us Pyro, Nyx, and Magnus, and call that Beta 1.0. I think both of those points are pretty solid.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think we're ready to call maybe not like right this minute, but I think at the end of this year we're ready to call Star Citizen Beta 1.0. And I think that's me kind of pipe dreaming. I think CIG is going to get there by the end of this year.
I think as far as Star Citizen goes, the whole concept of like pipe dreaming is becoming less and less of a thing because we're getting more and more of the actual stuff. So
Yeah.
it might still be a pipe dream right now, but not for long.
In a few months, it might not be at all.
Well, when you talk to your friends, you won't have to say, yeah, guys, you're going into a tech demo.
Right, yeah. Like, hey, man, this is a 10-year-old alpha, be prepared. Like, no, hey, man, here's this game. This full game.
Here's a game. Like, you're ready. Go play.
Are you ready to spend the rest of your life and also $10,000?
Yeah, like
go.
Are you ready for the rest of your existence to be put in a Star Citizen, and then we're gonna Neuralink you straight into the game by the end of the next century?
Dude, if I could go
you're be setting up people like just like go commit crime, just like here it is.
You do what you want.
You said if we can Neuralink it, man. If I can lay in my bed and just project Star Citizen into my brain, let's roll with it.
Yeah,
I'm ready.
I'm doing it. Like, yeah,
Elon, you heard it here. Do it.
Yeah.
Look, my brain cells are fried enough as is. I don't think it would hurt.
To wrap us up here, we at LBL obviously are very excited. This stream was like, I would normally say the stream was incredibly hopeful. We don't know what's going to happen, but like we do. This stream was almost entirely based on fact that we were given this week. We did make a little bit of speculation on things that like we didn't have. Like, for example, the HUD and the visor we didn't know for sure, but like we're pretty sure, or like the new Moby glass we don't know, but like we're pretty sure. But we're not like pie in the sky. We're not speaking bullshit. All these things are making this look like a beginning to a really good year.
I think important context as well to it is they don't say anything that they're not sure of. They've made the mistake once and they never did it again.
Yeah, they've kept him locked down.
They keep Chris in a box, and Jared knows that it's his neck if something goes wrong.
Yep.
Seeing this list, seeing one's on track for 323, and knowing that 323 is pretty close, it genuinely instills like solid hope that they're going to keep their sitcom promise of having that to us within a year. Like, I genuinely think they're going to follow through on that.
I'm kind of giddy. I won't lie.
Me too. Yeah,
like I've got the list here. I should have had it up the whole show, but I've got the list here. I am giddy. I am excited, I am giddy, and I'm just waiting for this whole list of things to not exist and to be really sad.
Well, and again, what still kills me is this is just what they've said, and they're like, yeah, like, we need to be careful. There's a bunch of stuff, you guys don't know that we can't talk about yet, but you'll hear in like a few weeks. It's like, excuse me, that there's more than this?
Yeah, Jared keeps going off like, nerds, you don't know everything. And I'm like, I look at this 22 item list and think, we don't?
What do you mean there's more?
We moved from, hey, we'll give you guys an update in 6 months to, hey, next week we're dropping, the biggest news ever, and then the week after that we'll top that.
Yeah.
Well, and like this week, they're like, we're back post and their we're back thing. We're expecting like, oh, 323 is gonna have like 3 ships in it and it's gonna just exist and like we're gonna wipe the economy again, all your components are gone. And they're like, yeah, so like this year's worth of quality of life updates we haven't given you, have them.
Here you go.
Now.
Yeah, here you go.
Take them.
And this is just the first of the year.
That's the first of the year. But with that said,
It'll be a while.
I think it's probably good for us to wrap ourselves up and stop rambling and ranting on. We will have more to talk about in the coming weeks, I think, and I think we'll have more specific things to talk about in the weeks because CIG will give us more information on everything on that list.
Yeah.
I know we mentioned like going back and doing a deeper dive on master modes. I think this gives us an opportunity. Later on this week, if you wanted Icarus and Drex, we could all go in and actually spend some time in master modes, really get a good in-depth understanding, and we can come back next week if we even wanted, depending on the massive info drop we'll inevitably get before next episode. But we can come back to it and actually give you guys a pretty in-depth understanding of what we're seeing.
Yeah, I think that's probably the way to go for it. That is probably the way we should roll this out. So thanks again, everybody, for coming and watching. Thank you, Herbeck, for your... I don't know what to describe that as. You just existed today, and with so much information, it's nice to have somebody fact-checking us and making sure we're not stupid. Because we are stupid.
Yeah,
we're
stupid.
Pocket info.
He's right. He is the Galactopedia. It's. I'm glad we have one on retainer just when we need it.
Yeah, we've got the wiki that just comes to us.
Yeah,
like I said, our very own Jamie. Harvick, pull that out.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Thanks Icarus and Ten for being here and holding the show down last week. And thank you for everybody watching. I see we have a total combined 6 viewers. So,
woo!
I would say to all 6 of you that stuck around as we pushed 20 minutes into the black dark nothingness that is the time after our stream. We want to thank you guys again and remind you, just as I wrap up, if you want your favorite screenshot or your screenshot of the week to go up on the stream background, please just post it in our server. Because if you do not, then I'm just going to keep picking ones out of my library. And I could go forever.
Yep.
All right. Catch you gents later.
See ya.
Bye, everybody.